Alrighty. So I'm gonna do my weekly update. So I do my normal little market update um on my analysis with the 19. So I have been mentioning it to a few other people. I have been getting a few more requests about it. So I'm gonna keep up the updates, and we'll just see how things progress in the future. You're welcome, of course, to pull up a chart and look at how it performed in the past, right? So thank you for anybody who comes in and look at these. Feel free to drop a comment about any assets you like to see pulled up, any comments you have about the methodology, and just anything that you would like to share. So I'm going to try to jump in here and we'll cover the weekly update. So here we go. I usually do these once a week. So if we look 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So over the last 7 or so days, we had this kind of thing playing out. Our obvious out. This is the daily chart we're kind of working with, and I'll go up to the weekly where I most recommend all the activity be. But then there's been this recent run off the bottom as it climbs up, and so I'm covering this daily chart as part of the analysis, right? So we can see, like, if you look back here, this moving average became significant resistance, right? And then we have these ebbs and flows. So you have your downtrend. It literally uses the next EMA as resistance. You have a downtrend. That one caught support on the 19. So that was one of your stronger downtrends compared to this one. It subbed it, right? Um, it works up, uses the next successive EMA as resistance, right? So you're literally laddering up on these numbers that have already been pre-programmed in. You have your downflow, right? This one got weak, and you had your mandatory sell point because it broke the 19, essentially right up in here. So I'm not zoomed in, so I'm kind of giving you some estimates, but broke 19 here, you should have gotten out, and then all of that became your gain in Bitcoin. So if we pull that up just real quick, um, map that out. So you're talking about potential 10%, if you don't even try to catch it at the bottom. But anywhere up in this range, you had a good 10% pickup on Bitcoin, um, knowing that you had to take that mandatory out at the 19. So we see the resistances that it has to get above. Looks like on our next ebb, if we can actually get ebb, or if this downtrend continues to go, and we'll look at some other things to kind of figure out what direction it may go in. But our next successive EMA would be up in this range for Bitcoin at about 25.5, and then we could expect another downflow. And then we'll look at the weekly to see what's above this 25.5, basically 26,000, which may actually be a market reversal. So we'll kind of check that on the weekly chart. Let me check the stream, see if anybody come in. No question. So, yep, we had this downtrend, right? Now using the 3 as resistance, we can tell as this 3 is flattened out, this downward momentum is kind of definitely subsided. It looks like if that price can kind of get above this 3, you may even get a reattempt at this area at the 9. Um, and then if it breaks past that, of course, the 19, which would be significant. But right now, first area would be up in this range against the 9 as it trying to turns this 3 back up. So I'm gonna jump over to the weekly chart and we're gonna look at some things. But just over the past week, yeah, you had an easy opportunity to pick up 10% more Bitcoin because the hard rule is sell to 19 as it breaks down, right? As it descends past the 19. So that was your easy 10% on Bitcoin using the methodology, your easy spottable resistance without having to be subjective. Just program in your numbers and let them visually tell you what's going on in the market. We did see this 9 crossing here. If I zoom in a little bit before I leave this daily chart, and why these other EMAs are significant, because as we had this breakdown, right, we could also see that this 9 started crossing over the 19, excuse me, and that told us that that was going to accelerate this downward movement, right? So we had the 3 already kind of had crossed, so we had 1 and 2 could almost cross the 9 here as it was crossing the red EMA as well. So we had all these downward crosses, and this is how this momentum got accelerated here to the downside. And that's why I have those other numbers up, even though all of the trades are only made as prices ascending or descending past the 19. Now, in saying that, you can obviously see, as I said, this is a 10% move, right? So if you're buying in this area, right, and you're saying I'm taking my 10%, which is a good thing, right? You have a few choices that you're going to have to obviously make. The first one is if you're buying here, right, and you start to go up, when do you sell again? Well, you're looking for a rejection off of this 19 area, right, or even off of this 9 area, depending on how far it breaks down, to know which way you want to pivot. But more importantly, your strong numbers are here, right? So if you bought down here, and you start these uptrends up, yeah, you can continue to ride them. But if you see you get strong resistance in this area, right, you definitely want to go ahead and go back out. And if you bought down here, right, you would obviously have some type of limit order, right, if we started getting downward momentum, so that you at least sell at your buy price and then get the rest of the movement as it goes down. So your pivot would kind of change to this area because of the buy here, right? But otherwise, you riding it up, looking for rejections, get back out, and continue on with the hard rules. But if you catch these dips here, right? Because again, you could be a very conservative trader and just says, I'm out here and I'm not going to go back in until it breaks here. So that is another safe way to play this. But I know people tend to try to optimize moves. So I'm trying to give you both scenarios. But again, there's no problem with saying I'm just not going to go back in until it gets back above here, right? And then your spread becomes smaller that you make, but it's easier to safer to trade off of. So it just depends on how you want to play it. I'm going to jump over to the weekly. Let me check, see if anybody decided to try to join in. Nope. And I'll jump over to the weekly. We'll take a look. All right. So for all of our weekly people who are following on, this is your more conservative, easy to trade, less trades. I just showed a daily because we did have a significant drop off from the tops, and so there's decisions that have to be made, about buying in the low areas. So I want to be able to cover it all. But this weekly chart is the most important chart that you should ever be kind of like ever trading off of. And we see the clear breakdown was way here on Bitcoin, and we had no reason to get back in because we basically barely had a move above the 9 here, which kind of became your resistance, right? So this was the easy, just out, pick up, and wait. Now, important thing is we were under the 3, so this is, from a weekly perspective, right? Not this day-to-day volatility. This is telling you the pressure is still going in the downward area because 3 is a resistance, it's not a support, and that's negative. That's kind of always indicative of more pressure to the downside. We can clearly see that 3 is angled down, so we can tell the actual kind of short-term direction and momentum of price is still down. All of your other exponential moving averages are pretty much down until you get to about your 200 this flat. So everything is pointing down here. And more significantly, for people who are trying to figure out if we're going to visit any kind of lower price ranges and in the 17 area or whatnot, we do have this 19 that looks like it is trying to officially break the 200. So we zoom in a little closer to, right, that's kind of coming through as a confirm. And this is a weekly chart. Today is Wednesday, so we have a few days to go. If price doesn't start to recover as we get into the end of the week and this starts to confirm out as an actual cross, then I think we are going to see this downward momentum continue. How far down? We'll look over on the monthly chart to find the supports, but definitely revisit some of these areas. And it can be seen clearly by that potential cross right there. All right. So I'm going to jump over to the monthly and we'll find the support. All right. So here we go. We did have the 3 crossing here. This gave us this downward momentum. This also had acted as resistance because as price kind of broke down and clearly wicked right back under it. So this is kind of that major resistance in this area. The cross of it, downward momentum, broke down past this one as well, right? So our support is right here at this particular moving average at this given time. So any break of $21.21, $20,121, would be significant, and then it puts in play your next lower support, which sits around 18.8, right? And then obviously that becomes very, very significant because that is our historical low support, other than this one wick that we had here that reached it. But otherwise, it has been the strongest support historically. So that's an obvious signal that if for any reason, and I'll zoom here and try and get a little more accurate. And of course, it will angle down as price angles down. So this is a change in real time, but you know which one to use and how to use it yourself. But you have kind of a clear breakdown here at 18,680. And if that support loses, then you definitely want to be taking something off the table if you haven't already, because that then puts the lower support in play here at 15.8. 15.834. So that's a very significant thing. There could be another support under here as well. One further lower support, but we won't cover that right now. But as of now, this is what I expect to be the lowest that Bitcoin will go as far as a close and open candle. It may wick down, but I would safely say until things change that about 15.5 or so would be the lowest that I would expect Bitcoin to go in this downtrend so far. So we see the obvious 3 that crossed there that gave us this downward momentum. The 9 crossed over that 19 over here on the monthly chart that accelerated this downward momentum. 3 continued another cross. So the clear direction of all this price action from a long-term perspective right now is in the downward direction with some pretty good supports to prevent it from going much lower. So even if I pull this up on the ruler, we'll take a look at what the percentages are from kind of the area that we're in to some of the potential lows. So we're talking about another 27, 28%, you know, Bitcoin could potentially go down, and that kind of gives you your risk reward kind of way to look at things if you needed to know it by percentages. So you're not really gaining a whole lot, but you are protecting your portfolio appropriately if you're making some of these potential moves and growing your stack beyond what you may just be dollar cost averaging or holding on to. So that's a look at Bitcoin. I'm going to jump over to XRP because I know a lot of people who know me from the XRP community. We'll take a look at that. Starting off on the monthly because it's kind of going backwards the way this normally ends up happening, but we can see here our clear out was way back over here when it broke down past the 19. We've been dealing with all of this clear downward momentum. Your last support is here at about 20, basically 29.97. We'll just say 30. Yeah, and I guess that's why I got my little indicator here, alert or whatever that is. I'll take that up. But yeah, if you happen to break down past here, obviously you want to be taking some off the table. That is your lower support, and it essentially puts any number lower than it on the table. So if it happens to go to 17, happen to go to 12, like all of that potential starts with a breakdown of basically 30 cents. So that's important to know from the monthly perspective. You can kind of clearly see the historical performance, how it catches the trends. And I'm going to switch over to, let's go to daily and come back to weekly. So looking here on the daily, for us who caught some of these bottoms or started buying at these bottoms and need to know how to protect your portfolio, right, and get a good learning experience for when these numbers and dynamics start to happen, even at much higher numbers if it happens to go up, right? We've already covered this in some of my previous videos. So you're in, you're out, you're in, you're out, you're in. We had some noise going on here, so I knew something was going on, but yeah, in and outs on the daily for about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days until we had the big breakdown moment that we kind of saw coming based on these moving averages starting to reject off of these supports. So not only was price testing these supports successively, but your EMAs were actually doing it as well. So it came up here, couldn't get past that one, started to break down, tested it again, couldn't, tested it again, couldn't, and broke down. And I'm just talking about the white line at this point, right? So it's reacting to these moving averages as well. Same as the 9 came up, tried to test that same one, couldn't get it, crossed down. So we see the 3 ended up crossing, the 19 ended up crossing I mean, not the 19, the 9 ended up crossing as well. And it's accelerated all of this movement to the downside. So our last exit price, if we would have been following up the methodology that I used, would have been about 37 cents. And you'd have currently been in profit dealing with, buying down here in this range. So let's map that out right quick. And you had a potential easy, 8-9% pickup, even if you stretch it to the bottom 10. So it was a little less volatility from a Bitcoin standpoint in this instance, but very same dynamics. Prices currently from a daily standpoint under your 3. So it's showing weakness, but the 3 is kind of flattening out. So, it took some of this downward momentum out. We'll just have to see what happens, because this could obviously, go down, being that the strength is under the 3. And so we're still in a down. We do have all of our crosses here, so there's no big cross to accelerate this at this current time. It just needs to go back and start retesting these as resistance, if that's what it's going to do. We see how it laddered up through the resistances as it was making this move before the breakdown. Biggest from the daily standpoint would be above this 41.25 at current numbers. That's your most highest resistance here on the daily. And we'll switch over to the weekly right quick. So from the weekly, we had a clear 9 resistance area. Broke it down. We see the 3 could not get above the blue line, broke down. So all this, from people who were your long-term conservative traders, you sleeping pretty comfortable, right? You made your exits back here when it broke down past the 19, bought in this range. You really had no reason to kind of do anything right now other than just wait. You look for a rejection around this area if it happens to happen. Breakthrough here, you may even add some more to the table and start pushing, see if we can test these resistances here at some of these higher levels. We get past this area, and then we can expect, some price discovery areas, what I like to describe it as. But the whole market trend, what people like to call bull or bearish market, I like to describe it as pivots above or below this yellow line. And so the market is still bearish until it breaks above 44.45, and we can then officially say we're in a more bullish trend. Right now, it's been an obvious bearish trend since this break here, and there's nothing to indicate anything otherwise. Even the short-term EMA is indicating downward, right? So even the more current trend is down overall. So that's just where we sit with XRP. If I kind of slide that out, you will see some of the back history and how it performed. Like I said, current downtrend was here. We obviously had an uptrend off of the lowest support, right? Because there was your lowest support possible. It used it as that increase, our big moment, right? Even though the big moment in this case was short-lived and broke down. And we see what happened. Your last big trend moment there, it ended up at your lowest support. Your trend upward broke out here, went on to set those high numbers that we saw. A little short down trend here that quickly turned back up. So all your trends are very obviously identified as these movements past the 19, which we also see here, and brought you down to some of its historically lower supports. So check the stream here. Oh, I got somebody in, so let me jump my man in.
Morning.
Good morning, man. What it do?
Oh, not much. Sorry if I got my kids in the background here. There.
No, it's all good. It's all good.
Cool. I wrote down a couple of questions that I tried to do some trades this week with using the 19. But my main question is, how do you catch the trade right at the 19 line? Like, besides, like, do you use, like, I don't know, because it's easy to look back at previous, like,
no. So here, let me attempt to answer that question. But before I do, are you trying to intraday trade, or are you looking at more long-term trading?
Long-term. So like, first, okay, can you walk me through, like, let's say you woke up this morning and you looked at all your, well, whatever you're looking at.
Can you see the screen?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I'm gonna give you real time of the looking at the screen exactly what you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
So if you're long term, the most important chart that I always tell people is your weekly chart, right? So
Yeah.
I don't have to really know anything, but to have my limit order know that 43.65 as of today is where I need to be understanding where to make my next move. So nothing else matters until price breaks about 43.65. Now, on some of my phones and other devices, I have alerts before that, so it does give me a heads up that I'm kind of getting in the frame. But I do have limit orders that are set for 43, using today's numbers, 43, about 43.67, 43.65.
Okay.
And so that's on the XRP chart. So that's why
Yeah.
So that's why I asked if you were kind of like intraday trading or like had made some moves off the recent, fact that we're near the bottom, because then I would have to go to a daily chart and I can show you from the daily chart. My we had obvious entries over the past week from our previous videos. So I've been having to react to these daily moves, unfortunately, which I don't like to do. But ultimately, it each day presented where I would have to put my limit order, and that limit order was generally coming in right about 37.23. So at any time, if price broke 37.23, it would trigger my sell order to then sell. If it happens to get above, I would say 37.33, then I have buy orders that would trigger the buy. Those current numbers would be buy orders at 35.92, right? So from here, it's already triggered any sales, and I've already put my buy orders here, and I don't have any reason to get back in until it breaches this 19 on the daily chart.
Okay. So you can set those. Well, you don't even know it could cross tomorrow, and you're setting things today for that potential cross.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And the good thing is using XRP and the XRP ledger, and you do have to get used to kind of like what the available liquidity is, but you can actually make these moves right from your Zoom wallet, and you don't have to use exchanges or anything. You can actually set these limit orders using Zoom Trade and some of the dApps that are over there, right? And it allows you to keep custody of your assets while you do this. So that's very important. But I do also use exchanges like BitTrue, who have very low trading fees and have decent liquidity. So, and it allows you to make either not just a limit order, but they do have kind of another, I forgot the name of it right off the top of my head, customizable order that can allow you to preset these so that you're not stuck having to, catch it in real time and trade manually. You can do it somewhat automated. Other people do have trading bots and they can do it a lot more efficiently than me, but this is how I do it.
Okay, so you're not trying to pinch every little penny, like
Absolutely
trying to catch
not.
it exact. Okay, because at the beginning of this week, I was looking at a bunch of just energy stocks and stuff in Canada because that's where I'm at, and like 3 or 4 of them crossed the 19 all on the same day, and I'm like, oh shit, I missed it because the prices are already like $2 higher than my potential exit later. Maybe that's what I was kind of thinking. Like if it crosses the 19 in the red like 2 days later, I could be losing whatever, right? If I bought it at the top of that day.
Right. So like I used to Forex trade using this same thing, right? So I'm gonna switch over to the dollar and we'll look at it from the dollar perspective, right? But you get paid by bips over when you're trading Forex, right? So
Yeah.
you kind of could have taken essentially what is a long position here at with a limit order to buy at 106.23, right? And now your long got triggered and you're just sitting in this profit if you were Forexing on the dollar, right? And so
Yeah.
and it'll keep dragging this 19 up. So you can kind of just preset your sale back at 107.04. Now you would lose a lot of the gains here. So I mean, it's just kind of how it goes. If you want to take them here, then you're set. But even if you didn't, your exit, if you wanted to pre-program it, would be like right at 107. And if it happens to break 107, then you probably have a short that's buying at 107 and getting ready to test these lower areas on your short.
Okay. And then I guess what you are segueing into what you just said, like what do you spend most of your time looking at? Forex, crypto, stocks, or just kind of everything?
The majority of my personal bags are denominated in XRP, so I'm predominantly always focusing on XRP. My next biggest holdings are Bitcoin, so I'm crypto mainly. Yeah, I'm mainly crypto.
Yeah. Okay, and that's probably well. Have you tried like your 19 method, and have you seen what gives you the most gains? I guess, or what like is most consistent or highest?
Well, that's an
Just
interesting
curious,
question. No, that's an interesting question. I've tested the analysis using securities and traded, just back testing it and testing it out with some securities. But I just principally don't like trading securities because I know that for me, at least from my perception, it's one of the old boy networks that's still predominantly driven by what they decide, right? And I like
Yeah.
playing in the crypto market because it seems like a more, supply
Honest.
supply demand dynamics. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Cool.
Also, hold on, to add to that real quick, is there seems to be more volatility traditionally in crypto. So one of the things I like to make clear about my methodology is because I'm an accumulator and the main driver behind this method is to accumulate more of the asset over kind of like making profits, then it definitely puts me on the crypto side because here within a week, I had an opportunity to put 10% more Bitcoin right off of what I traded out of, and these present themselves pretty often, right? You can just kind of look back over the historical performance. And so being able to accumulate without just spending more money is very, very valuable. And so that's why I like crypto as well.
Mm-hmm. And if you looked at, like, for instance, do you know the publicly traded company called Hive?
No.
Okay. So they're crypto Bitcoin mining company, and they trade in Canada and the States. And it's interesting because I was looking at using your method. It might give early indicators of how the stock trades because it completely is correlated with Bitcoin's price. So you could catch it. I don't know, like let's say I haven't done much research into it yet, but it's interesting because like you could see.
Is it a stock?
Stocks, yeah, it is a stock. So
hold on. What's the ticker? What's the ticker?
HIVE.
I know, but it comes up under. Is this it then?
Yeah.
Okay, so this would be where.
Weird. Oh, hold on, that might not be it. I'm gonna go. I got my trading view up. I'm gonna take a peek.
Yeah, just let me know.
Yeah, but it's interesting because stocks only trade during the week, right? So you might be able to catch some stuff a little earlier, like on a Monday morning. I haven't really looked, but I think there's opportunity there. Hive Blockchain Technologies. Maybe you had your crypto button open for search. Yeah, right there.
This one here.
NASDAQ. Yeah. And the liquidity is there too, so that's why it's kind of, I don't know. So there might be something there.
So we're gonna zoom. I'm gonna zoom out first, and then I'm gonna zoom back in.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's bring this over. All right, so interesting thing that I immediately see here, right, is our major breakdown happened back down in this area, and we had a clear downtrend that just stayed under, gave us a little noise here, clearly broke down again, broke up, tested all of these resistances, broke down, got you paid on this one. And then we have some of our recent retest, break up, tested the 200 and broke back down. So it reacts very well to it, even on this security dynamics that we have going on over here. Even had the 3 crossing that accelerated this momentum. The 9, let's see what happened with this 9 here. If I zoom in, the 9 kind of rejected off of the 100. It did kind of cross if you want to look at it that way. The 3 continue crossing. So right now, Uh, we got the three. I'm gonna have to hide this candle here. So just a second. So yeah, we have the three that was crossing this EMA here. So it looks like it's in a pretty clear downtrend with its lower support right here at about a flat 5. If this 9 continues to cross this area, it could push it past this lower support or be what causes this lower support. If the 3 rejects off of here, you can see that trend turn. So there's some interesting things going on here on the short term. I'm going to go look on the long-term weekly chart just real quick as well. So
yeah. And if you have, I don't know, I haven't played around with TradingView much, but we'll put Bitcoin. Can you put Bitcoin over top of that?
I could. Let's see. Hold on.
I don't know. I think there's a way to do it, but.
So on the weekly, this was very interesting here. This makes it real easy. This is why I always tell, particularly people who are new, always trade long term on this weekly before trying to make short term moves, because you had an obvious out here on the weekly back at like 16.6, and it never got back above the 19. So it was like just you see it breaching all of these EMAs, came here, touched your lowest one. So this may have been a buy area for some people who would have just said, hey, look, I've gained a whole lot and this is the last support, so I buy here. But then you had a rejection here, so you would have had to go back out. But even if you did stay out from over here, you hit your lows, you bought back in here, you rejected, and you just recently sold, and you're just hanging on to see how far it goes. You got that 3 that's kind of rejecting the 19 here. If this 3 crosses over the blue line, it may go back down in that lower 3 range that you have here. So yeah, it's some interesting things going on with that. I didn't even know about this hive, of course, but yeah, clearly,
it's
clear resistance right there off your 200, and your clear breakdown, was right there.
Yeah, it was the first thing I thought of, because I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting, because it, like I mentioned, it directly trades to whatever BTC's price is, because all they do is mine Bitcoin. So interesting. There might be some cool stuff there. I don't know, but to catch earlier, I guess using the 19 on Bitcoin and then seeing what happens, that it's going to cross. What you would assume it's going to cross on Hive.
Yeah, I would still use whatever is going on over here with Hive to be my main indicator, right? So if you were, if you were playing this over the previously, you'd have had an order set at about 372, right? It'd have got triggered, and then it'd just ran you straight into profits. Your limit order could have been here where the 19 would have broke down, and that spread in between there is what your actual gain is.
Yeah. And then you're setting your limit order just to like whatever, where you assume it might cross the 19 in this week or whatever in the next few days, or just watching how the line's going up and down.
Yeah, well, wherever it doesn't move much, right? So on these days, right, as it was going up, I don't have to manipulate it much, right? But as it continues to go up, obviously I have to kind of adjust my limit order because it's dragging my sell price up.
Yeah.
When it flattens out like this, I don't have to kind of make very many changes. But if it happens to start breaking down, right, then my buy orders actually get drugged down. is how it happens.
So when you're looking at the weekly, like you mentioned many times, like that's the main thing you look at. Then you click on the daily, and then because sometimes on the weekly, it looks like it's crossed, and then you click on the daily, and then you zoom in, and it hasn't crossed. Does that make sense?
Good point. Yeah, and that is an obvious observation that you do have to be aware of. Like even if sometimes it's so far away from the line that you can kind of rest easy that you don't even have to worry about it. But when it starts, like let's go back to XRP, because I remember the recent trades, right? So with XRP recently, I did have that dynamics going on in that it was causing triggers to happen each day, right, in this range. So I had, you know, and even if you go in on a 4 hour chart, right, sometimes this may, because of the volatility so close to the 19, actually
Mhm.
trigger like multiple times within a day, right?
Okay.
And that kind of sucks, but it just kind of is what it is. And this is why I like when price is not, actually doing this, because this is the worst times to be using this method. It still works, but it's just making you do more work, right? And so I get to relax when it's in these moves that is clearly above, comes here, doesn't even trigger my move, right? And I can just relax each day. Then I come here and I may have triggers, right? Um, but yeah, and so the more that it stays away from that 19, the better it is for me. But no, those are the excellent questions about the nuances that you do have to be aware of. But yeah, you just mainly want to set a lot of alerts and limit orders to kind of let you know, and then otherwise you can step away from it. And I don't really deal with it. So like again, the important thing for XRP to for me right now is this break basically at 36. If price doesn't break 36, then I really don't care what's going on because I've already taken my exit.
Are you setting up your alerts on TradingView or on like your exchanges?
Both, because I'm using my phone when I'm away from the house, and so
Yeah.
yeah, I do want TradingView to kind of give me a heads up sometimes, even if I need to just know that I'm in the area, not just right at the point of where my trade is at.
Yeah, and then you're using just basic TradingView, so it's does I don't know if it has a delay on. I know the stocks are delayed, like 15 minutes or something, but is XRP delayed on TradingView?
No, it's generally right in sync with the actual exchange price.
Oh, sweet. Okay.
But you may bring up another good point as well. So I should mention this. Like if you're using TradingView to kind of like find your price ranges, you want to make sure that the exchange that you are using prices are either in line. So like in this case, you're actually trading off of Bitstamp because this price range is Bitstamp's price range, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's also important to know that like that spread could be significantly different if you're on Coinbase, right? So
Yeah,
or
yeah, yeah.
yeah. So that also brings up another good point that I probably haven't really made in any of my previous videos. But yeah, so if I go over to, we're at 34.53 on whatever that Bitstamp. Even if I go to, let's see, I didn't want to choose that one. I want to find Coinbase USD. Hold on, RP. Where is USD? FTX. I'll go to FTX. So yeah, it's 34.57. Now let's see how much difference it would make on your range, right? So we're talking about still 36. So it's close enough, right? It doesn't change your numbers much, but you do have, different actual prices going on. So you have to be aware of that. So that's a very good point.
Oh, no, no, that was because I wouldn't have caught that. I was just using whatever one I thought would have the most volume or whatever.
Yeah, and that's why I look at the ones that I do for analysis based on volumes, right? Because they are kind of setting price, because they're just more influential in price. The way that price is really kind of aggregated in this market. So, like
Mm-hmm.
FTX is a very high U.S. dollar exchange as far as volume, and the reason I know that, I'm going to actually change my screen right quick. I'll show you. Um, let's go to USD. Where is the USD at? Oh, there it is, USD. And then I got to reshare this. So let me Share screen, tab, volume. Open. So you should be able to see this other screen now, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so and I'm in USD. So where is those are the low exchanges? Usually it puts this in order for me. I don't know why I didn't today. But yeah, so FTX is right here. And that one exchange is 53% of the USD volume total.
Yeah. So that one would be the most accurate. Well,
Yeah,
the one that controls it the most, I guess.
right. And so even if I go back to like Tether, right? So I'm gonna switch this over to Tether. And where
Oh
did
yeah,
Tether?
like Tether's at like 70%.
Well, none. Well, was it on that exchange or something? 'Cause I didn't look at it, but I was just gonna go over here. Of overall XRP volume, Tether makes up 41% of the overall total value, right? So there's your 41%. Then you have Korea dollars,
I think it might have froze.
Oh, hold on.
Oh no, it's refreshed.
Okay. So yeah, if you can see here, Tether of the overall XRP volume around the world is 41%. And then you have Korea dollars, euro, pesos, and Bitcoin at 2%, right? But even if we look over here among Tether, then our highest Tether exchange would be, let's find it. I hate that it doesn't put this in order like it used to. Oh. I guess the highest one on here is Binance at 24. So yeah, Binance is leading the way over here. That's interesting. So I ain't gonna do that. I'm gonna stay over here. But yeah, man, it's good having some live questions and interactions, man. So I certainly thank you for coming in.
Oh no problem. I'm gonna go. Well, I'm gonna rewatch our today's video that you posted, and then try to do some trades anyway. But the first one's like yeah. Now that you've answered some more of my questions, it's not as scary. Because before I was like, oh, is the price was varying too much in the 19? I'm like, how are you buying in here?
Yeah. No, it was great having you in. Yeah, I got to cover most of the material that I normally cover on a weekly basis anyway. So I got to do it in a much interactive way than just talking to myself, man. So I appreciate you. Feel free to drop in, hit me up on Twitter, and yeah, I hope you
Will
prosper.
do. Appreciate it. I will,
Yeah.
and yeah, I appreciate it, and well, I'm sure I'll have some more questions.
All right. See you in the future.
I'm sure. Okay, cool. Later.
All right. So yep, I just going to go ahead and conclude this video today. I'll probably maybe do some other ones tomorrow if I have a little more free time, or maybe even later today if I have some more free time. But yeah, I did get a chance to kind of cover, at least a few of the assets in the market that we're pretty much paying attention to. Bitcoin, of course, and for those who are following XRP, you kind of seen where the numbers are at, seeing how we are using it and trading with it. If you have any questions, hit me up on my Twitter account. It's under Cashta as well. If you want to see more about the methodology, I encourage you to go back to some of my original videos and look at how it has been actually performing in real time as I update this information at least weekly. So I don't do forecasts, as people may know. I think forecasts are kind of useless. I want you to have a real time, every day, by the second indicator, so you know where to be on the sell side or on the buy side. None of it is financial advice. You can change any of these metrics the way that you like. You can trade what assets you like. We're just doing this for educational purposes and seeing what is the proven accuracy and performability of technical analysis when used in different ways than maybe some other people are using technical analysis and what its true potential is. So I encourage y'all feedback. I'll see you on the next one. Y'all have a great day.